There's no evidence at all that spirochetes are ancestral to cilia. That evidence is weak, and that they are ancestral to the nervous system is even weaker. But there's one thing that's very clear. Our sense organs, this means our taste organs, our balance organs that keep us upright, our rods and cones, the famous visual sense organs of the retina of the eye, the cilia of the ear, that means our hearing. Well, these sense organs in general are modified cilia. So that's the first point. And the whole spirochete idea is that cilia themselves come from once free-living bacteria. The richest source of, axons and dendrites are the projections, the processes that stick out of nerve cells. Nerve cells are called neurons, and those processes go in both directions. Axons away from the cell body, the nucleus, and dendrites toward. And the axons and dendrites make these connections in the synapses, they're called. And there's a nervous signal that goes from one to the next. Now, what's the connection? Well, cilia are composed of many proteins, but the major protein is called tubulin. And axons and dendrites are packed with tubulin, such that the richest protein in the brain, the richest source of tubulin in any tissue is the brain. Now, the concept there is that the tubulin and its relatives, that are called microtubule-associated proteins, these proteins ultimately have a bacterial origin. Now, that may not be correct, but it's very testable. The way I think of it is that sensory perception originally evolved in these bacteria. Now, that's quite true. We have spirochetes and other bacteria that are sensitive to light, that are sensitive to mechanoreception, to touch, that are sensitive to all kinds of chemical stimuli, including glucose, and we know that glucose has big effects in the brain. And I think if we think of ourselves as being inhabited by organisms, or once free-living organisms, now completely tethered organisms, that have their own needs for food, for stimulation, for all kinds of sensory proclivities that I just mentioned, that we can find a continuity between living consciousness, awareness, sensitivity at a microscopic level and at a macroscopic level. I think that throughout biological history, fusion of different organismal types has been much underestimated as an evolutionary phenomenon, and we see this in social organization in people. We see a beehive or an anthill as a phenomenon made of individuals, but far beyond the individuals in their capacity. E.O. Wilson describes ants, Amazonian ants, that stretch across many, many trees and make structures with their bodies that any of the ants by themselves could never survive. But as these massive communities of essentially cities of ants, they succeed in feeding and reproducing in ways that are unthinkable for the individuals. Well, I think that's fundamentally the idea.